Welcome to the PrepNet, presented every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Talk2Me's Channel 14. Come join us to discuss everything about prepping and hear what others have done.
Hey guys, it's time. We're going to go ahead and get this net started. We've got a couple early check-ins. We want to thank those who did check in early. At this time, though, if you'd like to register for the Preppers Net tonight, please give us the name you would like to use and also what state you're in. Let me confirm with the person after I get their information down, and then please go ahead and continue. So first one up, please go ahead and we'll get you registered for the net.
Hey, it's live action. I'm on here in the net tonight, so enjoy it.
Hey, live action, glad you're here, brother. Got you down. Next person, please go ahead and call out.
Hey, this is Donna MT in Montana.
Donna, always a pleasure to have you here, dear. Thank you very much. Next person would like to get registered for the net. All right, this will be the last call. Do we have anybody else who would like to register for the net? This will be the last call for a little while. Please go ahead and go. Okay, we'll go ahead and get this net started. And tonight's topic is going to be about food conservation. I'd like to thank Jim personally for bringing us these topics and doing all the work he does. We do have a YouTube that is set up now as well, and Jim is presenting our nets on there, and he's also presenting more information in a second video every week. So, Jim, thank you very much for all the work you do for these nets. And real quick, we're just going to check one more time, see if we got anybody else that would like to get registered. Okay, Jim, if you're ready, sir, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Red Bear. First off, I need to apologize here because due to a technical difficulty, Montana Jim messed up. We do not have a recording of last week's net to post on YouTube. And that's what I get for making changes to the tablet I record the net on just before the net. So please go to our YouTube channel for my comments on last week's net. Break. Okay, this week, in our multi-part all about food topic, we'll start with the classification of food. And what is the classification of foods? For this presentation, food classifications refer to the condition of the food when you bought it, such as canned, boxed, frozen, fresh, etc. Each classification of food has its pros and its cons. The pros of fresh meat, fruit, and vegetables are that they will have the best flavor and texture of any of the other classifications of food. The cons are that the fruits and vegetables will have a short shelf life and are prone to bruising. In addition, the meat will require refrigeration. Not a thing to rely on in our situation. And fresh foods are heavy, right? Next would be frozen foods. The pros of frozen foods are that their shelf life is longer than that of fresh foods. Meats and veggies usually cook up similar to fresh. Some frozen fruits are fine for anything you would want to do with them, while others have a con of only being good for baking. As with fresh meats, all would need a way to keep them frozen, and they are heavy. Right. Canned foods have a pro of much longer shelf lives than fresh or frozen. It's counted in years. And remember, canned foods can last much longer than the date printed on them. Preparation from can to plate is usually open the can, put it in a pot, heat it, and serving. The cons are, like fresh and frozen, canned food is heavy. You should not store canned foods in direct sunlight, as doing so can cause them to build up heat and explode. Another problem with canned foods is freezing. You must store canned foods in areas that will not freeze. For those in the milder climates, this is not a problem. But for those of us in cold climates, the places we can store canned food are fewer. Great. Even though canned foods can last a long time, we do advise that you rotate your canned goods to be sure you have newest canned goods for the bug out. The next classification of food would be dry foods like boxed mac and cheese, box flavored rices and pastas and the like. This would also include bags of rice, beans, wheat, flour, salt, and sugar. The pro is that properly stored dry foods have a long shelf life. Properly stored means you don't leave them in their original packaging. The cons are the need to store them in rodent-proof containers. Great. The pros of beans, wheat, salt, and sugar are that they have long shelf life. A con of rice and flour is that they will go stale at some point, so you can't store them for long, but you still get many years of storage. To fix the stale flour problem, mill wheat into flour. Not only will this eliminate the stale problem, but you will get the freshest and most nutritious flour you have ever baked with. You do not want to stock up on any bagged food that has been cooked in oil, such as potato chips, corn chips, some crackers. The oils used in the cooking will go rancid. Break. Meals, or MREs, or meals ready to eat, are quick and easy full meals. MRE shelf life is way longer than they say if stored in a cool, dry place. I am eating 10 to 15-year-old MREs, and they are still fine, but they were stored in a cool 55 to 65 degree place. The two biggest cons are their heavy weight, and to a larger extent, they are expensive compared to any of the previously mentioned food classifications. A dehydrated foods pro is that they need no refrigeration and have a good shelf life. Dehydrated fruits are good right out of the bag, but veggies need to be cooked in liquid to soften them up. Break. Other cons are that you will have a limited variety of dehydrated foods unless you dehydrate the food yourself. Dehydrators are not super expensive. However, you can easily build your own dehydrator with some wood, light sockets, incandescent lights, and a fan. Our last classification of food is freeze-dried. The pros of freeze-dried food are they require no refrigeration. It's very light. It has a shelf life of 25 years for most foods and a 15-year shelf life for meats. Freeze-dried foods contain 95% of their nourishment over fresh foods. Right? The cons are that freeze-dried food is very expensive unless you freeze-dry your own. Freeze-dried foods are delicate and can be crushed easily. You need to ensure they are packed in crush-proof containers. Some freeze-dried foods will not come back to their original texture or crispness, such as radishes, cabbage, and ice cream. I don't see a problem. Use the freeze-dried radishes, cucumbers, and cabbage as veggie croutons, and just enjoy the freeze-dried ice cream as it is. Right? We will have more detailed information on how you can freeze-dry, dehydrate, or home can your own food in our future All About Preservation series. In part 2 of All About Food, we'll cover suggested combinations of food classification. As not one classification, you'll be able to have all of your food stored. And that's it for this week's topic. For the discussion, I'll throw it back to Net Control.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Really appreciate that. Real quick, we're going to do a quick shout out, see if we got anybody else who would like to register for the net tonight. The floor is yours.
This is JW from South Louisiana.
We got you in, JW. Glad you're here, brother. Do we have anybody else who would like to register for the net tonight? Okay, then we will work down the list for the round table. We will start with Keith in Louisiana. Keith, with everything that Jim presented tonight, what is your thoughts and opinions, sir?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for doing the net. Like I said last week, y'all very professional, and Now, my opinion, the best is the last two that he talked about. The dehydration and the freeze dry. Uh, I seen a video of a guy. He goes camping a lot. He goes around in a canoe and get him a little spot, and he dehydrates some spaghetti, ground meat spaghetti, and when he gets to the site that night for supper, he puts some boiling water in the bag with the dehydrated stuff, and it comes out like it was, right out of the pot, man. And I think I'm gonna try that. I would like the freeze dry, but for what I've seen, you got this machine you gotta buy, and it's really expensive. But I think those two would probably be the best. Well, for me, I think it would be the best because you ain't gonna have that weight, and you can pack more like that. Well, yeah, that's what I got. Sending it back to the net control.
Thanks a lot, Keith. The weight thing to me is going to be a big deal too. So unless you've chose to bug in, looking at the canned goods and the storage, are you going to be able to haul that stuff with you? Your canned goods. Bugging in, you would definitely be able to set up some kind of storage at home. Also, if you have a bug out location, you'd be able to do the same. Fresh foods, I'll talk about that maybe here in a few minutes with my thoughts and opinions. But for right now, we're going to move on to Falcon in Texas. Hey, Falcon, what's your thoughts on tonight's topic, sir?
First of all, thank you for letting me participate tonight. And for the topic, I think it's actually a pretty important one, and something you have to actually prepare for. Let me reset right quick. What I do in my case, I get MREs, and I actually go to MREsworld.com, and I get all my stuff from there. They're actually like U.S. military grade, and they're authentic. So it's kind of like a surplus. So I actually go there, and it lasts for 5 years. And when it's actually getting to that point that the 5 years are going to be up, we kind of replace it, eat it, or do something with it, so we can actually kind of get used to the taste. And we use it for camping and other stuff like that. But it's a very important topic. I think food is actually pretty important too. So excellent. Montana Jim actually does a really good job with these preparation and stuff like that. So I really love it. You guys are actually doing an excellent job. Back to you, Red Bear.
Copy that, Falcon. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing the information where you get your MREs as well. That is much appreciated. Yep, that is one way to look at things. Fresh food. Jim was talking about that, and he said that would be very heavy to haul, and it won't last long either. It does taste better, though. So one way you could possibly try to get around this is maybe trying to keep your own garden growing, and maybe you could potentially have fresh fruits and vegetables, as long as possible through the growing season there. So I'm going to give a short break here. But also, again, your fresh fruits, you can look at canning them as well. So, all right, we're going to check really quick and see if we have anybody else who would like to register for the net. All right, we'll keep moving on. Live action. The floor is yours, sir. What are your opinions and thoughts on food classification and trying to preserve your food? Can I have a radio check, please? I'm having technical difficulties.
No, you working fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Hey, live action, are you out here, sir? Copy that. We'll go down the list to Donna. Donna, what's your thoughts on tonight's topic?
I personally am partial to freeze-dried and dehydrated foods, especially for bug-out situations. You just have to keep in mind with a lot of them that you need a water source or carry the water with you for a lot of these things. That's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that'll definitely be water would definitely be a very important thing when you're looking at your freeze-dried foods for a lot of it, trying to rehydrate it. That is very important. That is something that we would need to think about. Thank you very much, Donna, for that. I was actually going to start looking at the frozen foods also. Again, they're going to be heavy. They're going to be very difficult to store. Your meats and whatnot, and any vegetables or fruits that you freeze, you would have to really look at that situation and ask yourself how you would keep all this frozen. But with that, we will move on to JW in Louisiana. What are your thoughts on tonight's topic, sir?
Okay. Well, I'll start out with like canning meat. I asked my grandmother a long time ago how they did it back in the day. They didn't have refrigeration, but down here it's pretty hot. She said she canned everything in meats, stored it in jars, and if you do it properly, and you take it out and just reheat it and finish cooking it, it's very tasty and it's very good. It's got seasoning. Also, I wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but it's what the explorers used way back in the day. Hardtack, Hardtack, and you can go on YouTube and look at several different people explaining how to make it, and it'll last for over 100 years if you make it properly. And that's kind of on my back burner because I don't think it's very tasty.
Yeah, I've actually tried some of that hardtack myself, JW. You definitely have to develop the acquired taste for that, I will say. But the fact that it lasts 100 years, when you get desperate, you will do what you got to do to survive. So if you learn how to make that and start putting some of that up now, that would be a good thing for food storage, definitely. So thank you very much for that, JW. At this time, though, I want to check and see if there's anybody else who would like to register for the net tonight. The floor is yours. Okay. Jim, with the comments that we have so far, which we will be getting to live action here after you, what's what everybody's presenting tonight?
Okay. Keith, I agree with you about the last two for weight, freeze dried and dehydrated. And yes, freeze dryers are expensive. However, after you do so many sessions, you literally pay for it. And we're actually going to cover that in either the next one or the one after that about the price of freeze dryers have really come down since I got mine. I got mine probably 10 years ago. And but you can actually pay for itself, and the amount of things you can freeze dry is unbelievable. Let me drop this. And Red Bear, on the frozen foods, totally agree with you. I'm still in favor of having freezers and packing them with stuff, but you need to be able to, if something goes wrong, and this is obviously for your bug-in situation, that you have the facilities to either dehydrate, freeze dry, or can. And but I still recommend having frozen food, but it's definitely not for your bug out situation. And let me drop it one more time. And JW, yes, about the canning meat, you're right. I can all meats. The only thing I haven't canned is fish. But I can everything. In fact, is my meal after I get through here, I'm going to be using some canned chicken that I did. So it's easy. It's not hard. And again, we will be covering preservation, so we will have a canning segment. It's not going to be an exact how-to, but it'll get you in the realm whether or not you want to go look and see whether or not you want to do anything of that. So that's about it for now. We'll go throw it back to net control.
Thanks a lot, Jim, and I'm very curious about canning the meat. So let me give a quick break here. Yeah, I am very curious on that. I want to start learning about that. So I'm glad you're bringing that up, and I'm glad JW talked about it a little bit tonight. So definitely. One other thought with buying a freeze dryer is if you've got maybe some family members you're working with or good friends, ask everybody to chip in and help out buy this unit. and you all can use it as a community tool. Get together and just start experimenting freeze drying and start freeze drying things together for your food storages. So that would be a very big plus right there. One more short break here. All right, we're going to check on live action here, see how he's doing. Are you ready to jump in here, live action?
Yeah, but I am. I feel better now. But anyway, are you going to speak now or anyway?
The floor is yours, sir. What is your thoughts on tonight's topic?
I think the frozen foods is the best way to go, in my opinion, because they last a long time. They're more nutritious. But I think canned goods are good too. But the life shelf of the canned goods, I think, not as long as the frozen. So I think prepping for any kind of food with frozen or prepping canned foods is the way to go, in my opinion.
And like Jim said too, live action with your canned foods, you can go to Walmart, Myers, wherever you go grocery shopping, start stocking up on these canned foods. Pay attention to the dates, but their expiration date may not be true. The food may last even longer past the expiration date. What you can do now is try to find some food at your store that's getting close to the expiration date. Hold on to it and just start testing. Start trying and figuring out which canned foods will go bad by the date and which ones you can hold on to a little bit longer. Just kind of give you a good idea with your canned food storage. To give a little break here.
Makes a lot of sense, Red Bear. I think that's what I'm going to try to do, test it out and see what happens. I'll let y'all know in the next session.
Hey, live action, that's a pretty good idea. Thank you very much. I mean, that's part of the net here, too, is testing and trying different things together and sharing those results. We're all coming together in this net to be able to learn how to become better preppers. So Jim brings some amazing topics, and they do bring some pretty good thoughts and opinions and things that we can look at, to improve. Thanks a lot, live action. We really appreciate that, buddy. JW, I think you were trying to key up there. The floor is yours, sir. JW, you still out here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, I wanted to make a comment on the canned foods. One thing that I learned to try to do is look at the expiration date. That's just true. But in your storage situation, it depends on how much you have stored. Keep your older stuff current to where you can use it first, and then if you buy more, put it in the back of the list, so where it'll stay longer. You eat all the older stuff and then leave the newer stuff to get closer to the expiration date.
Copy that. Yeah, rotating your canned foods is very important. So you go to the store today and buy green beans, for example, just to add to your stockpile of green beans, you definitely want to rotate that into what you already have. Very important. So, and the stores are supposed to rotate their product too, but they don't. So don't, feel free to rummage through and try to find some stuff, older dated stuff in the back. You probably will. I'm going to give another short break here.
TC from New York checking in.
Hey, TC, glad to have you here, brother. The topic tonight, which we will turn the floor right over to you right now, sir, is food classifications, and what we're looking at is classifying how we're storing it. Canned, fresh foods, frozen foods, dry foods. Jim did recommend no bagged foods like potato chips and some crackers because they're deep fried and those oils will turn rancid on you. MREs and also freeze-dried foods as well. So if you would like to discuss any of this, TC, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I would go with MREs, but I also would go with freeze-dried, dehydrated, because you can preserve them for many, many, many years. But the whole key to that is they have to be in an airtight container, such as a mailer bag. It has oxygen absorbers, and that seals the jar and needs to be in a cool and dark, dry environment. Freeze drying is another way. That process removes water from creating a shelf life that's going to last for many, many, many years. But again, you need to use the Maillard oxygen absorbers to draw all of that out. And dehydration, removing the moisture is a big factor. Canning is another way to go. Let me just unkey. With canning, the method that I would recommend is it's involved you're heating and processing the food in a sealed container to destroy microorganisms to prevent spoilage, and that's another way to go. So those are my thoughts on that.
Copy that. One thing that I brought up too, I don't know if you heard this or not, Jim did talk a little bit about the price of buying a machine to be able to freeze dry your own foods. It can be a little pricey. So he did say that the price has come down on freeze dryers since he bought his, but it's still a little bit pricey. So what I suggested is maybe work with family members or really close friends that would want to join in and help purchase a freeze dryer, and y'all get together and start practicing learning how to do things properly with it, and then start preserving your food that way. But Donna did bring up the fact that with a lot of your freeze dried food, you're going to want to have a good fresh water supply to be able to rehydrate those and enjoy those foods again. I'm going to give a quick break here. Do we have anybody else who would like to register for the net? The floor is yours. Okay, well, I'm going to give it back to you, Jim. See if you have any thoughts on what TPC had to say, and maybe any last thoughts for tonight as well, sir.
Okay, Red Bear and TC. Yep. Yeah, TC brings up some really good ones. Yeah. You do have to have the proper packaging. Your freeze-dried stuff can be packaged in one way. Your dehydrated stuff you can package in another way. And yes, that's my advantage where I store. I have a basement that gets no more than 65 in the during the heat of summer, and it's nice and dark. So my stuff lasts long. And like I said, I'm using some canned food, home canned chicken for my meal tonight. That was canned in 2018. And by the way, those dates, those are actually not expiration dates. Those are mandated by our great federal government of best by dates. And for a lot of stuff, they're bogus. I mean, really, really bogus. But again, we are having this future topic is going to expand on what we covered today and give a lot more detail in things. So other than that, I'll go ahead and throw it back to net control.
Copy that. So what I got out of tonight is I hate it when I reach in the cooler and find out that my beer is warm. I did pack it in ice, and the ice melted. So let's keep an eye on our frozen food and how we're going to preserve that if we choose to use frozen food. Little joke there about that. I apologize, guys. I am going to start stockpiling Twinkies, though. And Spam. Yes, Spam definitely. Thank you, Damage. Does anybody else have any last thoughts on tonight's topic? Go ahead. The floor will be yours.
I was just curious if anybody has any experience with root cellars. I know we had talked about it ages ago for ourselves, and we just never went forward with it.
I've actually lived in a house once that had a root cellar, and we did actually start putting some vegetables down there. Potatoes, onions, carrots, things of that nature, and we were stockpiling up that way. Also, your canned goods would work really well in a root cellar. During the summer, if you check your temperatures maybe it's possibly cool enough in there to help preserve fresher foods and meats longer as well. So, Jim, do you know anything about root cellars?
I don't have a root cellar, mainly because of where I'm at. It's basically bedrock, so it's kind of hard to get one. But yeah, and that's a lot of stuff we have to look towards. Gee, what did the pioneers do? Because they weren't stupid, and they managed to survive. So yeah, root cellar can work very good. You do have to watch about, like in the South with humidities and such. You have to have proper ventilation, etc. Where I'm at, our humidity really doesn't get very high. We don't have to worry about that. But yeah, root cellars is definitely, if you can build one and have one, that's really a good idea. That's partly how my basement works, because it's 8 feet below ground, and so that's why there's such a 10-degree difference in the temperature there, from minus 30 degrees outside to 100 degrees outside. It keeps within that 10 degree area. Even in the wintertime without heating, it doesn't get below 55. So yes, a root cellar is a very good idea.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that. I think a root cellar would be very beneficial, but actually building one, I think that's where issues come in. I'm going to have to agree with Jim. You need proper ventilation in there still, and definitely good temperature control. So it would have to be dug down deep enough to be able to give you the temperature and ventilation that you would require for whatever you would like to store in there. And some basements all across the United States could potentially work as a root cellar, kind of like what Jim's doing. And give a short break here. All right, guys, there's going to be another net here in about 24 minutes on channel 16, the GMRS channel. So we're going to be wrapping things up here tonight. So if anybody wants to go to that, they can. But at this time, do we have anybody who would like to announce other nets that they do? The floor is yours.
I'd just like to announce every Friday night at 7 Central and 8 Eastern, Larry and TC, we run the roundtable, which is GMRS, but we talk about not just GMRS, we talk about ham, we talk about mesh, we talk about pretty much anything radio. And as I said, that's every Friday, 7 Central, 8 Eastern on Channel 19.
Copy that, TC. Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else? Net announcements at this time.
Hey, Red Bear, I think confirm with Rob, because I think Rob is not going to give the net tonight. It's going to be on channel 2. So double check with him.
Oh, copy that. Yes, I totally forgot about the net on channel 2. That is tonight. So everybody should probably get over there on time, definitely. So, because Scott is also doing giveaways and trying to make a big deal on the Everyone channel tonight. So we should probably get there. Thanks a lot, Falcon. I appreciate that. I forgot about that. All right. Do we have any last thoughts, comments, or concerns?
I just have one thing right there, is that it's important to label and date when we store our food in a dark and a dry area. And also rotation. Even though this thing will last for years and years, rotation is important too, to move the newer to the back and move the older to the front. I think those are two things that are important to do.
Definitely. I agree, TC. Thank you very much. Yeah, we do have to remember to rotate our food. Even in the freezer, if you're doing frozen foods, rotate that food. It only lasts so long in the freezer. It will last longer than if you just have it out fresh, but it only lasts so long in the freezer. So you want to rotate that, and you want to be able to go through that food in the freezer as well. Very important. Thank you, TC. Does anybody else have any last thoughts or comments?
Yeah, this is JW again. What we have to remember too is like for if you do want to do any canning of meat or anything like that, you need to think about this now, about making sure you have enough supplies for this, because it is supplies consuming. You know, it needs a lot of jars, lids, seals, all that. You get that now and just store it back, and then you don't necessarily have to can stuff right now. You may do that later, but you need to have what you need to do that with.
Hey, quick comment when you get a chance.
Go ahead, Falcon. The floor is yours, sir.
So I got a question, and maybe Jim can actually answer this a little better than I do. But when it comes to like prepping food, canning, stuff like that, do you think it's actually better to get something that it's already done, and you don't have to actually worry about doing all the stuff, or is it more cost effective to actually do it yourself in the long run? And I don't know, because it seems to me like going the MRE like way, for me, it's actually cost effective because I only pay maybe $50 and I get 12 meals, and everything is actually in a bag, and just prep it and that's it.